So I want you to imagine, just for a second, looking down at a desk.
Okay, a desk. I'm picturing it.
Yeah, and it's just completely covered in like scattered, slightly yellowed research materials. You've got these heavily detailed census records, intricate parish register, some really beautiful black and white family photographs, and handwritten family tree notes everywhere.
Oh, wow. Sounds like a genealogist's dream.
Mm.
Or maybe a nightmare, depending on how organized it is.
Right, exactly. And right in the middle of all of this is this incredibly colorful map of Yorkshire. Welcome to this deep dive into the source material. This is actually a special installment of the Connie's Chronicles series, and we're calling this one The Desk Where the Past Came Together.
I love that title. It really sets the scene.
Thanks. So our mission today is to explore how these, seemingly completely disconnected scraps of paper slowly snap together to reveal a family's hidden history.
Yeah, it's like putting together a puzzle without having the picture on the box.
That is exactly what it is. And the person putting this specific puzzle together is our protagonist, Paul Smith. He started his genealogy journey back in the late 1990s out of this really simple, super relatable curiosity about his roots.
Which is how it always starts, right? You just want to know a little bit about where you came from, what drives us to dig into our past like that.
I think it's just human nature to want to anchor yourself.
Totally. But, while genealogical research often starts with those really simple questions, it rarely ever stays simple.
Oh, it definitely didn't stay simple for Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because what started as a straightforward, paper trail for Paul eventually led to this massive, completely life-altering revelation decades later.
Are we really? Decades later?
Yes. But to understand that massive revelation, we first have to ground this family in space and time. So let's pull the very first item off that metaphorical desk. It's the antique map of Yorkshire.
Ah, specifically the East Riding, right?
Exactly, East Riding. And the map shows these sweeping wapentakes.
Wapentakes. That's such a great word. Those are the historical administrative divisions, right?
Yeah, an old Norse term left over from the Vikings, actually. So we see the wapentakes, we see York, the architecture of Beverly Minster, and all those rugged coastal areas.
It really gives you a sense of the geography dictating their lives.
It really does. And right in the middle of that geography, we layer in our first real record, the 1911 census of England and Wales.
Okay, 1911. Pre-World War I. What are we looking at?
So we zoom in on this tiny village called Ulrome, and here we find 24-year-old Henry Milner Hughes and his 21-year-old wife, Ethel.
Okay, so a young couple, just starting out.
Yeah. And reading a census, it's kind of like looking through a historical keyhole,
That's a really good way to put it. You only get to see whatever is right in front of the door.
Right. So through this keyhole, we see Henry, who's born in Shrewsbury, Salop, and his occupation is listed as wagoner on farm.
A wagoner. Wow, that is heavy, heavy labor.
Oh, incredibly grueling. And Ethel, who was born locally in Kilham, Yorkshire, she's been married to Henry for 2 years. They have a 1-year-old daughter named Elsie.
Okay, so mom, dad, and a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty standard.
Well, yes and no, because they are also living with an 80-year-old widower named Robert Frankish.
Wait, an 80-year-old? Is he a relative?
Nope. He's listed as a boarder, and his occupation is a general laborer at 80.
Oh, man. What's fascinating here is how much this single document tells us about their reality. I mean, it establishes their social class instantly.
Exactly.
And we see migration, like Henry moving all the way from Shrewsbury to Yorkshire for work. But it also shows these really intense household dynamics. Taking in an 80-year-old boarder who is still doing manual labor, that screams financial desperation.
It totally does. They needed that rent money just to keep the lights on, so to speak.
Yeah, but it makes me wonder, how much of a person's life can we truly understand just by knowing their occupation and their address?
Not much, honestly. These records, they're really just the skeleton of a life. They're just waiting to be fleshed out.
Right, because the census doesn't tell you if Ethel was stressed out of her mind trying to care for a baby and an elderly man on a farmhand's wages.
Exactly. It strips away all the human nuance. But if we fast forward a decade, we can start to see how that skeleton grows. So let's look at the 1921 census, along with Paul's handwritten lineage of Henry and Ethel notes.
Okay, 10 years later. The world has gone through a massive war. Where's the family now?
Well, they've evolved in a huge way. Henry is now 37, and he's experienced some serious upward mobility. He's been promoted to farm foreman.
Oh, nice. From wagoner to foreman. That's agricultural middle management right there.
Huge step up. And Ethel, who is now 31, is listed as doing home duties.
Home duties, right. Which, let's be honest, is basically managing a small empire when you live on a farm.
Oh, completely. Especially when you see the growing brood of kids.
Yeah.
So we've got Elsie, who is now 11. Then there's Ronald Henry, though the notes say he also goes by Jim. He's 9.
Okay, so Ronald is Jim. Got it.
Then there's Constance May, who is 7. And Winifred Margaret, who is 1.
Wow, so 4 kids now.
Wait, it doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
Paul's handwritten notes reveal even more siblings are coming down the line. There's Thomas, born in 1922, Alan in 1924, and Nancy in 1931.
7 kids. That is a massive family.
7 kids. And according to the local school records Paul dug up, all 7 siblings attended the local school together in Old Rome.
That is actually incredible. I mean, child mortality was still a very real thing back then. For all 7 to survive and go to school, that really shows how much Henry's promotion to foreman changed their lives. They finally had some caloric security.
That's a really great point. It completely changed their trajectory. But I want to zero in on one specific child here, the middle child, Constance May Hughes.
Ah, our Connie. From the title of the series.
Yes, our Connie, born on September 25th, 1913.
It's so satisfying to see this all come together. I mean, by combining that 1921 census with Paul's ancestral chart, you really see the family tree taking shape.
You really do.
Because on those charts, he's got Henry's parents, Thomas Hughes and Elizabeth Wilkes, and Ethel's parents, Charles Bentley and Amelia Nettle.
Right, so we are looking at 3 solid generations solidifying right there on paper.
Yeah, it's the best phase of genealogy research, isn't it? When the records actually validate the family lore, it feels like you're solving the mystery perfectly.
It feels great, but, identity is a funny thing on paper. It tends to slip and slide a bit as people get older.
What do you mean by that?
Well, let's move to the next document on the desk. This is a certified copy of an entry of marriage from 1935 in the registration district of Bridlington.
Okay, Bridlington, so they've moved toward the coast. A bit more urban.
Yep, chasing labor opportunities, likely. So on this document, Constance May Hughes, who is listed as a 21-year-old spinster, is marrying George Smith.
Okay.
George is a 25-year-old bachelor and a general laborer.
Standard stuff so far.
True, but look at the father's details. George's father is James William Smith, a laborer, but Connie's father, he's listed as Harry Hughes, farm worker.
Wait, Harry, not Henry?
Exactly. Henry has colloquially become Harry on a completely official legal document.
That is such a classic genealogical quirk. It terrifies novice researchers. They think, oh no, I followed the wrong branch.
Right, they completely panic.
But it just shows how fluid identity was. The registrar didn't demand a birth certificate. He just wrote down whatever Connie said out loud.
Exactly. If Connie called him Harry, well, history recorded him as Harry.
It's amazing.
It is. And from that marriage, Connie and George's lineage just explodes. If we look at Paul's Maurice kinship notes and the family tree he drew up in 1966, we see a whole new generation.
Oh, let me guess. Lots more kids.
Yep. Maurice in 1941, Alan in 1943, Malcolm in 1946, Paul himself, our researcher, in 1951, and Angela in 1956.
Wow, so Paul is basically mapping out his own existence now.
He is. So what does this all mean? I mean, on the surface, looking at this desk, Paul has successfully built this incredibly beautiful, complete, traditional family narrative, right?
He really has. He's anchored himself in time. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, what happens when the paper trail is almost too neat?
Ooh, that's a dangerous question.
Well, it is, because we treat these documents like objective truth. But parish registers and marriage certificates, they only record what individuals tell the registrar. People lie to hide things, or they just change things to sound better. The documentary evidence is actually incredibly fragile.
It is so fragile, and here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh boy, I'm ready.
So Paul's research looked complete. But as he kept analyzing it, there were these tiny, nagging inconsistencies, little blind spots in the official records, dates that felt just slightly off.
Just enough to bother you, but not enough to prove anything.
Exactly. And for years, they were just unanswerable questions sitting on his desk until modern science entered the picture.
Ah, modern science, the ultimate fact checker.
Yep. Decades after he started sorting through all those census records and parish registers, Paul took a DNA test. He was 68 years old, and that DNA test revealed a massive fundamental truth about his own identity.
Let me guess. The paper trail lied.
The paper trail was completely wrong. The DNA proved that his biological father was not the man all those official documents claimed he was.
Wow. At 68 years old, that is, I mean, this raises an important question. What do you do with that? It creates this massive tension between documentary truth and biological truth.
It completely fractures reality. He spent decades building this huge, unbroken sociological family narrative on his desk. He knew the soil they farmed, he knew the schools they went to.
Right, and that history is still real. The love, the survival, the farming in Yorkshire, that all still happened. He was raised in that culture. But the DNA revealed this entirely hidden biological reality that the archives were totally blind to.
Exactly. No registrar ever asked the right question. No family photo captured the secret.
It just shows that genealogy is basically a collision between recorded history and deeply guarded family secrets. You go looking for names and dates, and you end up uncovering messy, chaotic human behavior.
Messy is definitely the word for it. And it really forces you to step back and reflect. I mean, this whole journey started with a guy who just had a simple curiosity about his ancestors.
Right, just mapping out a lineage from the 1850s to the 1950s.
Yeah, using all these incredibly beautiful historical documents. And then at the very end of his life, the ultimate truth gets completely rewritten by a vial of saliva.
It's mind-blowing.
It really reminds you that genealogy is never, ever just about collecting names and dates. It's about trying to uncover the deeply human and, yeah, sometimes very messy stories behind those names. It starts as a fun hobby, and it can end as a completely life-changing discovery of your own identity.
It definitely changes how you look at yourself in the mirror.
Absolutely. And the wild thing is, the documents on Paul's desk, they still have more secrets to spill.
Yeah.
The DNA evidence takes the story into some incredibly unexpected territory. So you're definitely going to want to stick around for the next discoveries in Connie's Chronicles.
I know I can't wait. But before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. If you were to trace your own family tree, and your meticulously researched paper records completely contradicted your DNA results, which one would you choose to define as your true family history?
Family history often begins with a simple question. But sometimes the answers change the way we see the past. Thank you for listening to Connie's Chronicles. Preserving the past, connecting the future.